So Dave Chappelle dug his heels in. I sent you the video this morning. It was about 5 minutes. We're not going to play it.
No, I know. He dug his heels in a very Dave Chappelle way, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal.
He's an interesting cat.
He is a very interesting cat. Remember a few years ago when he canceled some things and he was going through some personal things that was really weird.
Yeah.
And he went AWOL. We didn't hear from him for a couple of years.
Right.
Then he came back. He's I say smart. I don't want to say brilliant because if you say brilliant, then it looks like he's got this figured out. He's going to get this Netflix thing, and now he's going to do concerts, right? And so he was on stage. I forget where I was at. And so during the pandemic, he had a friend of his at a cornfield, and he started doing stand-up in this cornfield because it was outside, and other comedians came along, and so he documented, and that's what the closer is, right? So he says a lot of things about the transgender community and blah, 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 blah. And the LGBTQ communities come out, and people from the queer eye, and they've all, they know Dave, and they're like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And so he's standing put and using his, I don't know if he actually believes what he says all the time, because a lot of comedians don't believe what they're saying. They're up there to be funny. They want to make people laugh. If I could get up and say some things and I could get you to roar with laughter for 45 minutes and not believe a damn word I'm saying.
That's really interesting. Now, comedians, would they say,
it's an art.
Now, comedians, lots of comedians, they would say that the words that come out of their mouth, I understand they're doing it to get you to laugh, but would they literally say, I don't really believe what I'm saying. I just say it to get you to laugh?
Yes.
Really? See, now you've just crushed my world. Because yes. I feel like a great comedian, even if controversial.
And I can speak very personal about this.
What do you mean?
I say a lot of things on the show that I don't believe that I think will be funny.
Well, but you say things just to get me up in a tizzy.
I do.
Well, now
I've done that in my 33 years of being on the radio in Birmingham. And I've put my foot in my mouth on it, and I've hurt people's feelings doing it.
Okay.
I can't wait to hear what he's got to say next.
Crazy Tony.
And so it's entertainment. It's an art. And so comedians to me are this enigma, this different thing where they can really say or do whatever they want. Again, you're going to vote with your feet. If they're selling out shows and they're saying things that are hateful or, but again, you can't be funny. I find that when comedians get really serious about a particular stance, it doesn't go over well because even people that are there, they want to go to see a Dave Chappelle show so they can laugh their ass off.
Well, and even in his apology, he was cutting in, and that's what I'm saying.
He's cutting in, throwing a couple of things, and it was snarky. He even had the three things that you must do.
Yes.
You must first of all see my entire thing, which I think is a good point.
Yes.
You will meet me where I want to meet,
I was with you,
which I'm kind of with you, and then you must say that this Hannah whatever face Gabby
is not funny.
It was,
boom, there's the joke. There he lightens it up,
and so it was real snarky. The one thing that he has done a really good job of, that I think is unlike any comedian we've ever seen, is whenever like Richard Pryor got up on stage and talked about the fire where it almost killed him or whatever, they spin it because comedians are wonderful at taking tragedy and turning comedy into it, right? That's why a lot of great comedians come out of New York, because they live with 13 of their relatives in a small room and they got sexually molested as they grew up and they turned into comedy, right? He has done a really good job at gaining a platform where people do listen to him, and he does have a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
The fact that he can get up at a comedy show in front of 20,000 people and speak for 3 or 4 minutes and not hear a smattering of laughter because he believes in something or whatever, but he spun it. He knows what he's doing. It's going to help him, he said it best. This is not about me and the LGBTQ community. He said people from that community have reached out to me. They support me. They understand me. They know this is not about that. This is about the political
but that was a
part
spin.
of it.
But that's a spin.
It is a spin. But it's true.
No, but it is a spin because it is not about him and the LGBT community.
If you go and look at some of the rawest, nastiest, artistic endeavors that are in these film festivals.
Yeah.
His stuff looks like Barney.
Yeah.
It's like there's porn.
Right.
I've been there.
But he's got a platform and he struck a nerve.
And so
he works at a place.
So what he threw out was, and this is a little all poor Dave Chappelle. He threw out the fact that every major film festival on the face of the earth has woke him.
That was a mistake.
Has canceled him.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, because it looked like a sales job then.
Yeah,
then he looked like he was trying. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out. I'm going to put all my stuff out. I'm going to hit the road, and you can watch it for yourself, and you let me know what you think. Which is brilliant, because I don't think Dave Chappelle needs another dollar if he doesn't need it. And he thanked the president of Netflix for being the only guy that stood behind him.
I think he's walking on a super fine line, because it's exactly what you've just said. Are you a funny guy? And God, no, this is not shut up and play ball. But are you a funny guy? Are you a comedian? Funny guy's not the right word. Are you a comedian? Because comedians are brilliant in what they do. They're storytellers. It's not all funny.
And he may be one of the most brilliant.
Yes, but he's walking that line, and maybe you can, where he's going back and forth between. He's not saying this is funny, and now I'm serious, and this is funny, and now I'm the cancel culture and that kind of thing.
He's been doing it a long time, and people still love him for it because when you're funny, you're funny. And he's always funny.
Listen, the Daily Show. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. At one point, I cannot remember the survey who did it. It was considered the most watched news show. Mm-hmm. People watch, they 100% saw it is where they got their news. And it was funnier than, and it was snarky.
And you look at some of the downfalls of some of the most famous funny people. Jon Stewart gave up the Daily Show when he did start. He always believed in a lot of things.
But he was getting,
and it was funny. He started getting pretty political. He started showing up in front of Congress.
Right.
Andrew Dice Clay, when he cried on the Arsenio Hall show, you're like, whoa, dude, we're here to hear you laugh. What is this all about when it got like that? David Letterman.
Yes.
Got very retrospective. He was older in life. He'd gone through a heart attack. He had his doctors, but people applauded that because they loved what David Letterman was as the full canvas of his artwork. And so, I don't think this is the downfall of Dave Chappelle. I think he'll continue to be funny.
But it's where do you go, Dave?
But he's always had a little bit of an edge of that.
But it's never been called out this way. And again, I'm not. I'm going psychological on here.
Yeah.
You're at an interesting crossroads, Dave Chappelle, because you've always been controversial. Mm-hmm. But this one goes back to our other argument about the protests and the social media. We live in I don't like cancel. I don't like the idea of cancel because we live in a world now where, like you said, people can mobilize. Mm-hmm. People can mobilize. So you see more active protesting, the Netflix employees who walk out, right? If you think about back in the day, how would you know we're having a walkout, right? You got to put up flyers. So I think Dave Chappelle is in an interesting position because you've got your, what do you call them, your P1s. You've got your fans. They're not going to go away. But what's your image going to be? Are you going to stay in this weird spot? Is this great for your career where you're sort of walking this line? You got protests and people calling you out and all this stuff. And maybe you are. Maybe that is great. But is that where you want to be? And that's what's interesting. I don't know the guy.
He may not know where he wants to be.
Yeah.
I mean, and from what we understand, this is going to be his last special for Netflix.
That's right.
Just because it's his last, whatever, doesn't mean they're not going to.
Well, that was Rolling Stone said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, everyone does their last thing, and Jon Stewart's back.
Yeah, I've watched the show. This one's a little different. It's not funny.
No, it's not funny,
and it's not. I don't like it, and
that lies to what we were just talking about, where you kind of see him going that direction, and now, David Letterman did something. He did this documentary thing where he goes around. He went to India or something, and it was still David Letterman, but if you were watching it to be funny, good luck. It's not funny. And that throws us off a little bit because we're used to seeing this person as the funny guy the entire life.
I did not.
Sometimes you're like, wow.
Again, we talked about who's done it.
Jay Leno does a car show.
Well, but that's a car show.
Yeah. But I mean.
It's not social issues.
I mean, Jay Leno is a comedian.
Yeah, but he's got great cars. Nobody see that.
Jerry Seinfeld does the driving around with.
You can make that pivot. It's when you go from funny to serious.
Yeah.
You know who's done it? I'm not political, but has done his acting career, and I still say the same thing. Besides Harry Winkler, who's done the pro. God rest his soul, Robin Williams. Yeah. Robin Williams to me was the best example of a crazy, drugged out. He had some major psychiatric issues. Funniest guy in the freaking world, in my opinion. And then he became. And he didn't even become a serious actor. He was able to expand to the part where you're watching a Robin Williams movie and you're crying.
Yeah.
You know, like Adam Sandler hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a talent thing. I mean, I don't think it's a talent. I think it is who you are.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of people would say you can't be considered a true actor until you take on a role that a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable seeing you do.
That's right.
Macaulay Culkin had some movie called The Good Son or something where he was an evil little boy trying to kill his brother, so I forget the name of the movie, after he did Home Alone, and people thought it was professional suicide.
Right.
You are who you are, play who you are, and he wanted to be known as a serious actor, and we saw how that turned out. Jim Carrey, the Cable Guy, which was a really dark, weird comedy.
Jim Carrey done a okay job.
Yeah, but even when he tries to play this heartfelt father and liar, he's going to be funny as shit, and you're just going to laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's always going to be a funny guy. Dave Chappelle to me is always going to be a funny guy. I don't think he's going to pull a Dixie Chicks where he goes off for 30 minutes and talks about his political views because he knows what his fans want.
Yeah,
and he knows where this comes.
Well, he's a funny guy in a very snarky way.
Have you seen any of the
Closer? I did, not the whole thing. I have not seen it from beginning.
Have you seen the parts where he's talking about transgender?
Yeah, but I think he makes a good point, and I think everybody makes a good point. When you're doing something like that, you need to watch it from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. So I can't take my views. I mean, I can take. There are some statements in there, and this is where like you said, he weaves a story that when I sort of see the pieces of it, I'm not okay at the end, but he weaves a story where some people come out and say, look, why there's no reason to slam on him.
Yeah.
Again, we live in a society now where you're going to do stuff, people are going to call you out on it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
Which is exactly.